It's June on Exmoor, and that can mean only one thing. It's time for 1,500 triathletes to come to Wimbleball Lake for one of the greatest tests of endurance in British sport. The tryuk.com UK Ironman 70.3 Triathlon. It's a pilgrimage every age grouper has to make at least once, and it's the same for the pros, with many coming back for repeat performances. In 2009, there are defending champions here, including all three of the women who've won this race while it's been at its Exmoor home, and others simply looking for victory number one. It's a qualifying race for Florida's World Championship at half Ironman distance. 70.3 miles means 1.2 in the swim, 56 on the bike and 13.1 miles on the run. A man who knows how to win on this scale is Fraser Cartmell. The Scottish star had a thrilling duel here with Stephen Bayliss last year, winning the race with a sprint finish. Not something you see too often in Ironman events, and he's going for his Wimbleball hat-trick in 2009, while Bayliss will be hoping it's finally his turn to come out on top.
It was a cracking race and I thoroughly enjoyed being part of it. Obviously because I won, but you know, at the time I said it was definitely the best race I'd been part of, and you know, that stands yet still. Stephen's back and raring to go, I'm sure, and probably desperate to have a win this year, so no, I'm looking forward to a very tough race, and you know, other great athletes on the start list too.
I'm hoping it's slightly different this year though. That's my aim, is to change the result slightly. He's a good athlete, but he may not be the only one. There's some other guys there as well who may surprise us. So you just got to be aware and do your job well, and you know, hopefully I'll be the best guy on the day.
Dan Brook is another contender, moving up from Olympic length racing to 70.3, and he's already won at this distance this year. The move up seems to suit him, but the competition is just as hard as it is on the shorter races.
It's a very strong field here. I mean, Fraser Cartmell, who I trained with out in Stellenbosch at the beginning of the year, you know, he's won the race for the last 2 years, so you gotta know that he'll be out there for the third win in a row. Bjorn Anderson, you know, I've never raced against him, but he's just supposed to be an uber biker, so that's going to be good. And Phil Graves as well is a bit of a dark horse. He's a real strong cyclist as well. He won a race by 15 minutes a few weeks ago, so you know, there's so many people who are up there. There's no clear favourite. It's going to be a wide open race.
As will the women's race. All of the past three Wimbleball champions are entered: Catriona Morrison, Julie Dibbins and Bella Bayliss here. She won the race as Miss Comerford last year, shortly before marrying Stephen Bayliss at the end of what was a golden year for Ironman's golden couple. 2009 is a whole new challenge though.
I'm coming into this race strong. I've just come off winning Ironman Lanzarote, and pre-Ironman Lanzarote I got some really good training in where I think I found my strength. When Stephen and I got married, we had a little bit of downtime, and it took me a little bit longer than I realised to get back up to race fitness. Julie Dibbins and Catriona Morrison are both very good at 70.3 distance, but I believe I'm fit and strong, and I don't see why I can't be right up there or past them at the end.
Bella's main Wimbleball rival is Julie Dibbins, and it was Julie who came out on top to win in 2007, despite broken handlebars and suicidal bunnies. The reigning World Xterra and London Triathlon champion will dominate the swim and the bike, and may never be seen again by her rivals after the start, if all that goes to plan.
I've been doing this for 10 years, and I still get as nervous as you know, I did when it was my first race. But you kind of have to thrive off of that and expect it. You know you're going to get nervous, and use that to your advantage. Get the adrenaline flowing and get all fired up, ready for the race.
Winding back the clock a further year takes us to the 2006 champion Catriona Morrison. The Scot hasn't raced here since then, and the world #1 duathlete will relish the battle ahead.
This particular course down here at Wimbleball, the bike ride is very up and down, quite hilly, and the run is extremely technical as well. The run has all different elements: gravel, concrete, grass, molehills, you name it is out there on the run. Let's just hope there's not a rabbit that's deciding to run out in front. Or, I did see a dead rabbit when I was out going around the course, and I thought to myself, that Julie's been out here already.
Julie enjoying that one, but at 7:15 a.m, all jokes and all bets are off as the 1,500 competitors brave the Exmoor waters, disturbing any lie-in for the fish with one of the biggest mass starts in world triathlon. For the more cautious amateurs at the back, there's going to be little chance to get a sight of the front row, the pros, until they all cross the line between 4 and 8 hours from now. It's the men's course record holder up front in the early splash.
Just got myself to the front and stayed there. I mean, I'm always happiest if I can get towards the front. You seem to get less of a boxing match if you're clear at the front.
It's the toughest field Fraser has faced here. This race will be a tactician's delight with other all-rounders, run specialists and beasts of the bike leg. One such animal is 20-year-old bike powerhouse Philip Graves.
It was an alright start, just nice in tempo, and I managed to. There was Dan Brook and Fraser Cartmell who were just leading, so I just decided just to sit on their feet, and as time progressed there was Fraser, and then I was sat on his feet, and then Dan Brook was sort of sat on my feet, and I was just happy to sit behind him.
Fraser's got used to leading out alone in this race. Not this year though. Graves, Brook, Bayliss and Swedish bike specialist Bjorn Andersson are all right up there as they begin the lung-bursting hill climb to transition. Julie Dibbins' 24-minute 57-second swim in Wimbleball Lake gives her just over a 2-minute lead on those other former champions Bayliss and Morrison. We're a couple of hours away from the run, but Julie needs to put in as much time as possible.
The swim felt okay, like I expected to be out in the lead on the swim, and to be honest, I'm probably hoping for a little bit more than that. But I haven't had great preparation. I haven't been able to do too much swimming, so considering all that, yeah, I was happy with 2 minutes.
Philip Graves wants to do the same for his week run, and by T1 he has the advantage. Ironman events might be longer, but the transitions are no less important than on the shorter distances. Brook and Cartmell well aware of that. Recent honeymooner Stephen Bayliss has been conserving his energy on the run to the changing tents.
Everyone ran really hard up this first climb, which is really hard, getting out the swim and up this steep climb. And then onto the bike. I think Philip must have been a little slower through transition because he wasn't with us at first.
Cartmell's out on the bike and back in the lead, while down at the lake the mass exodus is underway. This event is the UK's only qualifier for the 70.3 World Championship in Clearwater, and these age groupers are fighting among themselves for the prized 50 tickets to Ironman Dreams in Florida. Fraser's been to that race twice before and knows just how tough the 70.3 circuit can be. Julie Dibbins has been the UK's top performer in Florida, but she's got multiple Ironman title holder Bella Bayliss and world #1 duathlete Catriona Morrison to make the race here equally unforgiving.
I didn't feel all that good actually when I started the swim. I didn't feel as if I'd had a particularly good swim, but then on reflection I was pretty much coming out of the water where I would have expected to be behind Julie anyway. For me, in comparison to previous swims with Julie, that's sort of par for the course, so I didn't actually feel that bad when I heard them telling me how big the gap was.
Most mere mortals would pale at the prospect of more than 2 minutes of deficit to Julie Dibbins. Not Catriona Morrison. She needs to maintain that gap and her energy to give herself a great chance on the half-marathon run.
I always find the first part, getting on the bike when your heart rate's already elevated, and especially you don't really realise it here, but the first thing you do is you climb a good couple of miles, so you're already going up straight away, so it takes a while to get into a decent rhythm.
Conserving energy on this UK Ironman 70.3 course and its notorious 53 hills in 56 miles is easier said than done. Cartmell takes it out in the lead with Bayliss and Brook close behind.
None of the individual hills themselves are particularly long, but it's the frequency of the hills, in my opinion, that really causes the damage. And there's 2 laps. You know, you get round 1 lap and that's okay, and then the back end of the second lap, that really kicks in.
With bunnies and broken bikes, there's usually some misadventure for a Wimbleball winner, but this year's surprise element is rapidly approaching in 4th place. A slow transition is not a problem for Philip Graves as he sets his sights on the lead 3.
He came up at the top of the first climb. He came past, looking pretty good, and kind of just opened up a gap and kept opening up the gap on us all. I've never raced against Philip, but I have heard about some of his results, and I know he's a very strong cyclist. But yeah, all the information I was told is that, don't worry, he can't run.
Bayliss and Brook blown away. Will the reigning champion attempt to ride with the flying Yorkshireman?
I've raced a lot of races against some good bike riders, and he's definitely of that calibre, and when those sorts of guys come past you, there's not much you can do about it because they've got another gear, and it's very impressive, and hats off to him. He rode that course fantastically well.
Graves is absolutely nailing this course and increasing his lead by minutes, but Cartmell doesn't sound too worried just yet.
He's riding pretty quick, huh?
Well, he had a speeder one, probably about touching 50, I'd say. I mean, there's one nasty descent where you just have to just go down it and just ride down it, not race down it, just ride down it and just recover all you can, really.
The gap is 3 minutes at the halfway stage of the ride.
By the end of the first lap, I'd got into a good rhythm, so I felt comfortable to try and drive the pace and hold the gap to Phil. I knew we weren't going to catch him up anymore, but it was trying to limit our losses.
Whether you're a runaway leader or a flagging back marker, everyone gets the same encouragement at this popular event. The biggest danger to these cyclists is that one of those 53 hills will be an incline too far. Now, having been taken out by a second stage specialist already, Cartmell must suffer the same again as the flying Viking Bjorn Andersen cruises by like a steam engine.
I came into this race focusing more on Bjorn because I've raced him a number of times. I knew nobody else had I don't think anybody else had raced him, and I've witnessed firsthand a number of times how fast he can ride the bike. He was motoring along, and he was tough to hang on to.
But the big man also corners like a steam engine. Maybe not his course, this one, and he's slowed down by more technical problems on the climbs. Having got only 2 minutes of lead on the swim, would Julie Dibbins push harder on the bike to make up for it? Behind her, Morrison and Bayliss are shadowing each other.
Julie's very strong on the bike, it seems. She really went very fast, and there was nothing I could do about that. She was in a different league on the bike today, and I just had to concentrate on the job that I was doing and hope that by the time the run came, I would be able to run her down.
Oh, Julie was gone. And yeah, it's hard to hear that when, you're biking. I was biking pretty much. I thought I possibly could go a bit harder. You've always got to be really careful because, you work too hard on the bike, then you can give up even more on the run, and especially on a course like this where it's not a flat run.
Was Dibbins gambling away too much energy then? Only the run would tell whether competitor 21 could hang on. Whatever the final outcome, it seems Julie Dibbins always leads this bike ride, but it was less eventful than 2 years ago.
I wanted to test the legs out and see how hard I could go. There's some corners at the bottom of the descents that if you take them too fast, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So it's always a fine line between trying to get as much speed, but not too much. No rabbits today, thank goodness. I didn't see any.
Maybe today, though, Julie had greater powers protecting her course through the countryside. And, of course, protecting those rabbits too. Others were equally in need of divine intervention. It's not just about enduring pain. You have to be ready for almost anything to be thrown at you in an Ironman race, and the road to that finish line rarely runs completely smoothly for anyone. They need every cheer they can get.
It's great that I'm that far back. As I'm passing people, they're applauding me thinking I'm with the front guys. It's great. Never had it before.
Meanwhile, Graves is so far ahead, he could be mistaken for one of last year's backmarkers. But the leader has played his strong suit. He's now holding a bad hand from this point onwards and may be overwhelmed by the chasers come the run.
A minute for every 10k on the bike is what I have been taking out of people. I mean, these cyclists are obviously a much better standard, but really, I thought with 9 minutes coming into transition, then that'd be enough for me to win. So when I found out that I'd only got about 4.5, 5 minutes tops, then I thought I'm either going to have to really bury myself here, or we'll just see what happens really.
In the end, his lead is 4.5 minutes, achievable for the chasing pack, and Cartmell knows it. It's going to be another duel on the run against Bayliss on the Wimbleball 13.1 mile course, but this time with the added complication of a runaway biker up front. Dan Brooks in with a shout as well. While the shouts to Graves are not encouraging for him.
There were only 4.5 minutes.
Graves is about 12 miles from what would be a stunning shock win for the 20-year-old. Find out who's got something left in the tank and who's running on empty after the break. We're at Wimbleball Lake on Exmoor, and it's the tryuk.com UK Ironman 70.3. Among the pro men, Bayliss and Cartmell are battling it out on the 13.1 mile run to the finish. But the senior guys aren't 1 and 2. Up front is 20-year-old cycling sensation Philip Graves. He starts the run with a 4-minute 30 lead and isn't giving good sensations to the usual Wimbleball heroes behind him. But it's a usual Wimbleball hot day, and that could suit the likes of Cartmell and Bayliss, who train in sunnier climes.
I don't perform so well in the heat because I'm more of a bigger athlete. I was a bit concerned that it was going to get really hot later on, especially being so far down south, and obviously I'm from Yorkshire, so it's quite cold up there. So I just had to dig in really.
Cartmell's gaining time and looking forward to a rerun of the 2008 battle with Bayliss.
I started the run initially, felt fantastic. Really thought that we would be having something similar. And up and down the first few hills into the sort of dam area, the wheels basically fell off my run almost instantly. And from that point on, I just had to find my own pace and rhythm and get through the run as best I could.
Was it possible that Graves' speed had tempted his chasers into going faster than they should have done on the bike?
The legs are just gone, you know, the muscles were just filling up with lactic acid, and I was trying as hard as I could, but the strength had gone. It was a real struggle the last 7k, but I still had to keep pushing. You never know what's going to happen up front and also behind.
It's looking unlikely for Mr. Bayliss to catch his target, and with Julie Dibbins leading the women's race, what chance of Mrs. Bayliss catching hers?
I think it was a bit of a mistake from me. I went out on the bike possibly a touch too hard, and that just took my running legs away from me a touch. Not much, but a bit. And if you make a mistake and there's good competition, you don't get away with it. The other girls get you. It's war out there. There's no mercy. If there's one of us dying a bit, then the other doesn't mind running right over the top of you.
With 6 minutes advantage at the start of the third discipline, Dibbins still can't relax. 2006 winner Catriona Morrison is a fearsome runner and is soon hunting down the leader on the lakeside paths.
I could see that I had a fairly good lead, but I also know that Catriona and Bella are, they're running really well. Bella just won Lanzarote, and Kat's been racing all over, running really fast. So I just wanted to focus on my own race and run the best I could. And I felt pretty good on the first lap. I felt under control, but then just the lack of training the last 2 months definitely caught up with me.
It's beginning to look like Morrison has paced it best today.
I was thinking, oh, you know, am I going to catch 6 minutes? That's a big chunk to have to catch. And then you start reeling it in, and the last minute and a half, it seemed to take forever to actually get onto her shoulder. And then as soon as you pass someone, it gives you a second wind. And it's, you know, and I've been passed like that in, you know, previous races, and to be the athlete on the receiving end is pretty tough as well.
No doubt Bayliss and Dibbins, now engaged in an unpleasant scrap for silver, would go along with that.
You see it and you take note of it, but you just have to stay strong mentally and focus on what you need to do to get around as fast as you can, and just hope, you know, that maybe they've gone out too hard and they're going to start suffering at some point, but that didn't happen.
Graves is hanging on by the end of the run, but all the guys behind are in just as much trouble. It's not often a brave breakaway cyclist stays away in triathlon, and it's a well-earned, hard-earned and heroic victory with a new course record for Philip Graves. The 20-year-old announcing his presence on the scene the most dramatic way possible.
Words can't describe it. It was so tough, especially that run. I was just a bit worried about the heat on the run this afternoon, but I just started to dig deep and just give it everything that I'd got. I mean, everything was hurting on those last 2 laps.
Bayliss beats Cartmell today, but will have to wait at least another year for that elusive Wimbleball title. For the beast of Exmoor, Cartmell, at least this race provided proof to the local crowds that the Scot is only human after all. Third in this race is still a result many triathletes would relish.
You know, I tried my hardest, start to finish. I'm not going to complain with third. It's still a podium. Sure, I came here to win and wanted to win, absolutely, and tried my best, but it just wasn't going to happen today. Full credit to Philip. He broke the course record, and that's an effort in your first full 70.3. So you know, he's a talent for sure. Very impressed with it.
There always has to be at least one Scottish winner here, though, and Morrison's result will delight those north of the border.
I was so excited. I wasn't, you know, when I knew that Julie had such a strong bike and I was about 6 minutes down, I just thought that's going to be so tough to catch up. But, you know, I just kept going and caught her up gradually.
So second place for Julie Dibbins and third for Bella Bayliss.
Kat had an awesome race today. I knew she was going to be really hard to beat because she's had some really great results this year. And, you know, I wish her the best for Kona. I think she could have a great result there and upset a few people.
With Morrison stepping up to Ironman distance later in the year, we will be too, as the next UK Ironman event is the full distance Kona qualifier, taking place in Bolton in August. Some of these heroes will be there, while for some, this was far enough, as another classic June day out to Wimbleball comes to an end in fitting style for everyone.